Hello everyone, 안녕하세요. I'm here to present on behalf of Crypto Finance. Thank you, Yuki, for the introduction. I myself am, as of recent, the head of Asia Pacific for Crypto Finance Group. We are one of the larger companies in Switzerland, one of the longer standing ones in the crypto space. We started activity in about 2017, but I'll get to that further into our presentation. So, I'm not here to promote blockchain or to say blockchain is going to solve everything. I mean, all of you are in this room for a reason. There's obviously something that unites all of us to show up here and sit through hours on end of different presentations of different companies doing things in this space. This is really general for everybody to know that these are the 8 segments where we see blockchain having tangible applicability. This is not a visionary pitch of this technology is going to solve everything. This is concrete examples of where this technology can be applied. Up top, you'll see a quote from the World Economic Forum where I participated earlier this year. It was said that by 2027, so hopefully within all of our lifetimes in the fairly near future, about 8 trillion in value will be stored in blockchain networks, which is of course a fairly large amount. Now, overall, I would say I entered this market in about 2014. At that point in time, the hype really did not catch on. Not many people knew what we were talking about when everybody spoke about Bitcoin or blockchain or whatever may have you. And that was that led to eventually the peak of the hype in about 2017. So this moment right here was about December, when everybody from your grandmother to the taxi driver was asking about Bitcoin and trying to buy it, and thinking that that's gonna take you from essentially being the average working bee to the next Bill Gates. Of course, that's not what happens. That's not how life works. That's not how markets work. And what we saw throughout 2018, and some would say up to this period right here, and nobody really knows where it bottoms out, because just corresponding purely to the Bitcoin price is not the right measure of the development of this technology. We would essentially, or predicted to rather, end up going up and plateauing in an area where there's actual productivity. So the 8 segments that I showed you later, those will be proliferated by blockchain technology to at least a 50% mark. And this is where we expect to be throughout the next decade, which we're about to enter in January. So, as the name suggests, crypto finance, this is the specific segment that we focus on. This can include a variety of different factors. So there's on the left-hand side, you will see that there's financial markets and global banking. This is your investment banking area, this is your custody area. I myself used to be a banker, and this is exactly what a lot of it falls into. So you see aspects like clearing, you see aspects like loans, which my colleague Gerald from Signum mentioned earlier. You see the onboarding processes, asset tokenization, and custody, and a lot of such factors which are very prevalent, of course, in the banking space. On that hand side, you see the actual transactional banking possibilities, so be it payments that Bitcoin is so great at, be it trade financing of larger deals, be it customer service, trading platforms, and fraud preventions. All of these things can be solved or intertwined with blockchain in one way or another. So, currently, I mean, I'm coming out of Switzerland. A lot of my colleagues out here were working there for decades past. All of us worked at large banks such as UBS, Credit Suisse, Julius Baer, you name them. Now, none of them, besides the occasional announcements that they'll make, we're working on blockchain in this way, we're working on security tokenization in this way, are actually ready to offer any of these services. For the matter of fact, neither are the newer banks either. Neither are the digital banks in Europe. So why is nobody actually playing in this space if it's so promising and so great and all of us are here talking about it, right? First and foremost, it's the infrastructure. So you need to develop special infrastructure as a bank, which is not anything close to what you've had conventionally. So whereas moving from gold to paper money, all you needed to do is really carry a little bit less weight in that sense into your safe and just lock it up with the same lock. Here, you actually need a very robust system to store your private keys. In terms of products, for all those looking to seamlessly integrate Bitcoin into their core banking system, it's not going to be that simple. It's a completely different process. It does not have an ISIN code or whatever may have you for settlement. It does not exist on Clearstream or Euroclear or any traditional settlement platforms. So everything has to be reinvented anew. There's also the time to market. At a bank, generally you have yearly approval cycles for budgets. So that's something everybody that's worked in banking knows, or in any large organization per se. You're gonna have to wait until the end of the year to get it approved for the next year rolling, and originally have a small budget, and maybe as people see promise, it will grow further and further. Nobody's out there deploying $1 billion from the beginning to just fund whatever blockchain initiative they have. The last is processes, so it obviously boils down to education, as pretty much everybody that's been on the stage today has said. Processes and the operational know-how is not something you can invent overnight. This is something that is built years and maybe decades on end. Even in banking, every single year there's a new class of new recruits that has to learn the ropes from the beginning. So, this is from the financial services point of view. This is how we see it. It does not necessarily have to be fact. But so far, we think blockchain can be useful in two different ways. There can be value on-chain. So these are things like my colleague Matthew here spoke about. This is creating value on the actual blockchain, be it tokens, be it tokenized securities or security tokens, whatever you may call them, or just, as Ivo Salter over here mentioned, tokenizing existing fiat currencies such as the Swiss franc, or the Korean won, or the renminbi in China, as has recently been in the news. Then you have the processes on chain. So this is running a smart contract. This is perhaps authenticating transactions or issuing new forms of securities or debt via that same smart contract, or even identity management for your operational processes. So the next time you're paying with your credit card, it will automatically know it's you and nobody else. Now, these, once again, going to the previous slide, pose both a unique challenge to banks and, of course, a unique opportunity. This, of course, could lead to very fast development, reduction of costs, as Gerald said, benefit the top line first and then benefit the bottom line after. So overall, one of the reasons as to why we're all still so active in this market is because we are the few people that understand that people have a problem in perceiving exponential growth of specific technologies. Many of us have used pagers before, and then they switched to maybe a Nokia phone. And then all of a sudden, look at us in 2019, everybody here carrying Samsungs, me with an iPhone, and everybody with the world at our fingertips. And just 15 years ago was a completely different space. People did not have touchscreens. You were not tapping the screen of your phone unless you were just missing the button while you're drunk. Now, in terms of the relative size of this market, it is absolutely tiny. This is a specific slide that we have geared towards the Hong Kong audience where I operate, and I just run a few comparisons to securities and different investments that they're used to. So look at the size of Bitcoin itself compared to Alibaba, compared to the SAC or the SEHK, or the Chinese bond market, or the total global equity market. It is infinitesimally small. Nobody cares about it. That's why nobody in banking is really touching it. But what I'd like to point your attention to is this, which is actually how the sale for some of our products is made. Now, for somebody with an ultra high net worth status or with a multi-billion-dollar status as an individual person, the main point is maintaining your wealth. It's not to multiply, because at that point it multiplies itself. So what happens here is that the correlation to all other traditional assets or traditionally accessible assets is so low that it just makes sense from a pure portfolio perspective to have a part of your wealth in that. And now this is thinking as a single person. This is thinking as a single multi-billionaire, multi-millionaire, wherever may have you. Now, if you're a government or if you're a large corporation that then has to pay people when they retire, or has to pay people years on end, you should probably take a look at this. Because a lot of corporations, a lot of governments were hurt in 2008 when everybody was sitting with American-issued securities and everybody simultaneously lost trillions in value purely because of an explosion of one specific market. Now, a little bit in terms of how we present it to these clients, since we're probably one of the leading players in Switzerland in terms of servicing banks and servicing these larger institutions. First and foremost, we say, all right, you just need to improve your product offering. It's just another service, the same way as BlackRock or any large corporation would go to them and say, here's our new ETF. We come in and say, you should participate, your clients want to participate, and you should have this product on your shelves or as part of your offering. The second is, of course, diversification options. This is what I told you about, to an individual client or to anybody that understands that the portfolio should be well diversified, according to Benjamin Graham. You should have a low correlation in your portfolio. And last but not least is, of course, the business opportunity. With regulation evolving, only a few players such as banks and financial services players being subject to the strict regulation, it is an excellent business opportunity if it falls into your favor. Now, why Switzerland? Because today you saw, I think, over a dozen people coming from this tiny nation that has the population less the size of the city. Now, Switzerland itself is known for a few things. It's known for watches, for example, which are currently being disrupted. Everybody's wearing an Apple Watch, people are wearing Fitbits. Anything since Casio released that little digital thing could replace a luxury Rolex or whatever else. The same happens in Switzerland's core, in Switzerland's bread and butter, which is banking. A lot of us are out there to try and either catch them out or try and take this little slice of this absolutely enormous pie. UBS, or the size of UBS, is incredibly difficult to imagine and to understand. UBS a year spends more on straws for their cafeterias than most mid-sized companies have in terms of their marketing budget, which is absolutely astounding to think of. And a lot of companies are out there to get this tiny, tiny percentage of that market share. Now, you see ourselves here today. You saw two of the probably leading players in Switzerland in the face of SACA and Sigma, of course, in Gerald. And now I will just give you a brief understanding of what we do. So we set out on this mission in 2016 and incorporated in 2017. Our original idea was fairly simple. Nobody in Switzerland could get access, so the products I was telling you with funds or any kind of products was not possible. Not many people could buy Bitcoin, I myself could, but the actual people with high net worth status could not. So our idea was simple. Let's launch a fund, let's make it as regular as possible. All of us have been in the fund space for a while, we can do it. It was not that easy. As Judy just mentioned in my intro, we got the license in 2018. We became the first crypto company to be licensed by FINMA, to be licensed for asset management, which actually did change the space to some degree. I don't want to say that anybody here paved the way for anybody else, but SACA and Signum are an amazing accomplishment of, I cannot even imagine how many hundreds of hours of legal work that it took to convince our regulator to do that. This is the path that I see for Korea, this is the path that I see for China, this is the path that I see for Japan, all the Asian markets where we intend to operate in. And my biggest hindrance in a lot of these markets is the fact that there is an absence of regulation. So some of these great products that I have here, I cannot talk to you about because this is Bitcoin, this is taboo, right? The next aspect is our brokerage service. Here we're servicing about 12 banks in Switzerland. We're probably the second highest in terms of the traded volume in Switzerland, which surpasses about 50 million monthly. In terms of trading crypto assets for some of the biggest banks out there, not just in Switzerland, but in the world. Last but not least is our infrastructure solutions for the storage. This is where we supply our infrastructure for storing cryptos for a variety of Swiss and European banks. Now, in all fairness, I would say that that service is completely unprofitable. It's not going to be profitable until my kids are going to school, and it is not going to be profitable until maybe their kids are. But the point is, one of the main mistakes or one of the main hindrances that I underlined before was the fact that there's no infrastructure. That kind of solution, or whenever you plug it into whatever the bank already has, can transform the way they work. Because this offers you a one-stop shop for pretty much everything you would need in a regulated manner that you're accustomed to, that can be plugged into Euroclear and ClearStream that I mentioned before, and where you can just go ahead and offer all that to your clients right away. Now, to my colleagues out here, I think their role is going to be incredibly challenging and, of course, very rewarding at the very end. For us now, we're trying to help the incumbents, the current players in Switzerland, be it UBS or be it the smallest bank down the street, to stay alive and to stay relevant with this technology. And at the same time, of course, grow our company to an even larger size than it is right now. We probably have one of the biggest teams in Switzerland as well at the current moment. And we're, of course, now expanding to Asia, which I hope will be as welcoming regulatory-wise as Switzerland has been thus far. Now, in terms of the next steps, we plan to continue distributing our products. I'm happy to announce that today I had a great meeting with a local asset manager that will probably be helping us bring our products to Korea. So hopefully a year from now, I'll be able to discuss openly what our asset management offering holds. We plan to get a securities dealer license, which is something that has not been done before in principle by anyone that's not a bank. This will allow us to trade these promising security tokens and derivatives and offer liquidity to larger institutional players. We plan to enable further financial intermediaries. We recently landed one of Asia's top banks for a storage offering. And we plan to continue building strategic partnerships with any financial services or crypto organizations worldwide that we believe share our mission and vision in terms of appealing to the traditional demographic. The slide. So, yes, thank you, Judy. So with that said, this is just a brief history of where what we've done so far and how far we've come in this past few years. I hope that the future is bright for everybody that's been on this stage today. And I urge you to, of course, come to me should you have any questions regarding how things work in Switzerland from a player that's already been around for a few years, has walked this path, and has, of course, had his bruises walking it. So thank you very much for listening to me today. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of the sessions for today as well. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 그 다음에